Hey y'all, Dixie here. I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of wildlife while I've been out on hiking and backpacking trips, and I've had people comment like, how do you see so many critters? So I thought it would be useful to share some tips that I think could help you see more, or I guess you could do the opposite if you don't want to see more wildlife. My first tip is hike early in the morning or late in the evening. If you want to increase your odds of seeing animals, they're definitely more active around dawn and dusk. And a lot of times hikers leave out of camp after the sun comes up and get to camp and set up before the sun goes down. So if you want to see more wildlife, extending your hiking hours one way or another, or both ways, making sure you're getting out before the sun comes up so you kind of watch the forest wake up around you, or hike into the night and you'll see all the critters get active right before the sun sets. By doing those things, you'll definitely improve your odds. Tip number 2, hike solo. When we hike with other folks, even if you have intentions of being quiet and hoping to see some wildlife, you get to chatting. It's just normal human nature. Even those folks who claim they aren't super talkative, when you're out with another person and you're walking in the woods, you're probably gonna talk about like the meaning of life and things that you wouldn't, even with people that you've known years and years. So anyway, hiking by yourself, unless you just talk to yourself a lot, and I'm certainly not denying that I've talked to myself a good bit out in the wilderness, but you know, it's more likely that you're gonna be quiet, and so you increase your chances of seeing more wildlife because you're not spooking them off before you can ever get to them. And with that said, of course, being quiet in general will help, like, you know, not listening to music out loud and just stepping more lightly. Number 3, be still while you're taking breaks. I don't know how many times I've stopped on trail, got a little bit of service, and I'm catching my breath, answering some text messages, but generally standing pretty still and being quiet. And I look up and there's like a deer right there. So being still and quiet is just like a perfect opportunity to blend in and, you know, get some rest and enjoy the view. I've heard people spot animals a lot too after they dig a cat hole and hover over it for a little while. I guess it's the same kind of idea, you know, if you're being kind of still and quiet and not grunting too much, then you might be surprised with, you know, a herd of elk or something. Number 4, approach water sources quietly. Obviously, wildlife use the same water sources that we do, as long as they can access them. So if you are approaching a water source, you know one is coming up, just kind of be quiet and approach slowly and, you know, keep your head on a swivel, look around, and chances are you'll see something that's also there trying to get a drink of water. The only thing I would say is if you're especially in like a desert where this might be the only water source for everything alive for a ways, then be mindful of that. Keep your distance if you're gonna observe for a while, and, you know, don't stay up on the water source for too long because a lot of animals might be spooked and decide to pass up on a water source that they desperately need, but because of safety, you know, they decide to move on. My only disclaimer would be if you're in bear country, use this tip cautiously, because the last thing you want to do is spook a bear, especially in grizzly bear country. When I approach a running water source, I always holler out, "Hey bear," because with the running water, it can really drown out the sound of an approaching hiker. And like I said, you don't want to spook a grizzly bear, especially, I don't really want to spook any bear, but grizzlies seem to be a little less forgiving, especially, you know, a mom that has cubs. My next tip, number 5, is move slow when you approach transitional areas. So what I mean by this is if you're in a forested area and you're passing into a field, when you make that entrance into the field, you know, be quiet, move slow, and chances are you might see some sort of wildlife along the edges, the tree line, because they'll come out of the forested area where they feel safe and feed on the edge of that forest. Sometimes even when you're coming up over a hill or, you know, around a curve where the view is otherwise blocked until you get around there, you know, you might can sneak up on something. Tip number 6, consider carrying a trail cam. Now, I know that seeing an animal on camera is not the same as experiencing it in person. However, I find some thrill in the setup of the camera, like trying to figure out, where do I think the animals will move? Will they use the trail that we walk on? Are they taking another path in this area? Is there a water source nearby that I think they're gonna come take a sip of? And I just love to see what's creeping around camp in the night. And so it's fun to set up the trail cam, and then also in the morning, I can't wait to check it out. My disclaimer here is, if you're camped with other people, be considerate. Not everyone wants to be caught on camera going to the bathroom or something. So I always ask the people that I'm camping with, hey, do you mind if I set this up? And then I try to set it up in an area where I don't think even people passing by are gonna go and use the bathroom. And my last tip, tip number 7, is put off the Snow White vibes. Just channel your inner Snow White, and before you know it, you'll be besties with all the forest critters. I mean, I say this kind of jokingly, but really, just when you encounter an animal, put off good vibes. Don't call bear darling. They don't like that. But just, give a sense of ease about yourself, and you might be surprised what you attract. All right, y'all, well, that is all I have today on tips for how to see more wildlife while you're out hiking and backpacking. I hope that this is useful and y'all are able to spot more critters. That's one of the things that I love so much about hiking and backpacking, is what am I gonna see out there? What kind of interaction am I gonna have? And it just makes it so much more fun to me. If you found this video useful, don't forget to share it with a friend, and we will see y'all next time.